Hey everybody, Erin F. Darton here, also known as Life Coach E. I am an emotional intelligence coach. I was on Facebook earlier and I saw this post. It was a conversation between a couple. I want to go through the example and kind of point out the different components of emotional intelligence or lack thereof. So it appears that she texted him to let him know that dinner was almost done. And he says, well, it'll be cold by the time I get there. She says, that's what a microwave is for, Mr. Ungrateful. He says, there's a big difference between fresh off the stove and out of the microwave, but hey, at least I get to eat. I need you to pick up some butter. I see where they get it from. I'm assuming that they have children. He says, there's a big difference. Fast forward a little bit. He says, you cook hours before me coming home, hours, on a meal that I wanted and think there's something wrong with me wanting it closer to when I get home. So I'm going to have a cold plate to reheat in the microwave instead of you just waiting a little longer. Like I said before, at least I get to eat. And yes, it's the fact that there's a difference between reheating it in the microwave and fresh off the stove. If the roles would have been switched and you were at work and coming home to a meal, I would wait till closer to when you got home instead of letting the food dry out and get cold. There's a big difference, but I'm not going to make a big deal. And her response is, honey, I'm cleaning up the kitchen and the downstairs, sweeping, mopping, plus. If you've got a problem with me cooking and making sure all of us are good and your investment of this house don't go to shit, then I think you're being ungrateful right now. I could have just been lazy and done nothing with all this flack. And so the post said, who do you think is right or wrong? But that's not what I want to kind of discuss. There are 4 components of emotional intelligence in personal relationships. There is a 5th one when you talk about professional relationships. But for your personal relationships, you have your self-awareness, your self-management, your empathy, and relationship management. So let's go through each person and identify the different components of emotional intelligence. Let's start with him. He talks about how she cooks a meal that he wanted, but she cooks it hours earlier before him coming home from work. And when he gets home from work, the food is going to be cold. He's going to have to reheat it in the microwave. And there is a huge difference from food being fresh off of the stove and out of the microwave. If he is self-aware, he is able to identify that he is frustrated, he is dissatisfied because he does not want his food to be cold when he gets home. Keep in mind, there may be other issues causing him to be frustrated. Maybe he had a long day at work or there are other issues going on, and if so, if he's self-aware, he is able to identify those causes and separate that from his food being cold once he gets home. Now that he understands that he is frustrated and he dislikes his food to be cold, the next step would be for him to manage those emotions and articulate that effectively to whoever this other person is. He says, if the roles would have been switched and you were at work coming home to a meal, I would wait closer to the time you got home. Now, you cannot expect people to behave in a manner that you would. Nobody, no matter how much time you guys spend together, no matter how much alike you guys are, nobody is going to behave the way that you do. And so you cannot expect you from other people. And so the more effective way for him to manage his behaviors would be to articulate to her, I dislike it when my food is cold, or it frustrates me when I come home and my food is cold. And that would be more effective than saying if the shoe was on the other foot, because the shoe is not on the other foot and that person is not you and they are not going to behave the way that you do. And so to be effective, you need to explicitly tell the other person what you are feeling and why. Now let's look at her and her self-awareness and self-management. She says, honey, I'm cleaning up the kitchen and the downstairs, sweeping, mopping, plus. If you've got a problem with me cooking and making sure all of us are good and making sure your investment in this house doesn't go to shits, I think you're being ungrateful. Again, if she is self-aware, she is able to identify that she feels unappreciated. And that's clear because she calls him ungrateful. there is a chance that she also feels overwhelmed by the chores that she does. And the way that she communicated that with him, she said, I could have just been lazy and not done nothing with all of this flag. Again, not the most effective way to express your feelings. Again, she should have possibly just said, look, I am overwhelmed. I do not cook later because I know that I need to clean up and get the kids ready for bed or whatever it is. But you have to make sure that you are managing your emotions and you are communicating effectively. And so empathy, to be empathetic, he would need to understand what it is that she is feeling. He would need to understand that she does feel overwhelmed, that she does have a lot going on, and that maybe she cooked at the time that was convenient for her. And likewise, she would have to understand that he does not like his food to be cold. He is possibly frustrated, or whatever else that they have shared with each other. And then this is where the relationship management comes in. Now that you understand that he does not like his food to be cold, he is frustrated, and you understand that she is overwhelmed by having to cook, clean, and take care of the children, and she feels unappreciated. Now you use this information to manage the relationship. So maybe there is some type of compromise where she agrees that she will cook later if he helps her with the cleaning and with the children. Or maybe they agree that cook during the week and clean on the weekends, or whatever it is that they decide to come up with that works for them. Once you are able to identify and understand your emotions, and you manage those emotions by effectively communicating them to the other person, and both of you take the time to understand one another, you use all of this information to manage your relationship. So stick around. I'll be back with tips and tools on how to become more self-aware, how to manage your emotions, how to be empathetic, and how to manage your relationships to cultivate healthier relationships.